in addition to regular and widespread common research, qualitative research methods such as interviews and participant observation, STIR also makes use of a semi-structured decision protocol to conduct STIR exercises, which are different from interviews. Makes use of several techniques and a general ethos of engagement that's practiced by the embedded humanist who deploys the decision protocol. And finally, the results are analyzed using the framework of midstream modulation. And the idea is to collaboratively describe expert decision situations in real time as they occur in typical situated settings by means of these three methods. The objectives of the STIR program are primarily numbers 1 and 2, with the third tertiary objective entering in where possible. So the first objective is to really just understand the nature of expert capacities to perform socio-technical integration and to explore the possibilities and scope for those capacities expanding, deepening, and becoming more aggregate. At the same time, the effect of number 1 and 2 will also lead us to exercise and even enhance these capacities. And these are effects that are quite commonplace and they're documented in many STIR studies. But it's important that the exercising and expanding of the capacities is not the primary objective. That's something that we call STIR 2.0. If we're actually going to do STIR proper, then we focus on 1 and 2 and only allow number 3 to come in within the scope of 1 and 2. So this mode of practicing STIR has been deployed in over 80 studies around the world on 4 continents. And many of these studies have led to publications in peer-reviewed journals, some of them in edited collections and chapters, others in dissertation format, and then several are unpublished. But today, we are very pleased to welcome Miklós Lukovics and let's see, Nikoletta Nádas. I hope I'm getting your name correct, Nikoletta. So Mickey and Nikoletta have been practicing STIR in Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, and various surroundings, and generally in post-socialist environments. And Mickey's been doing this for 10 years. And it's quite an impressive program that includes a number of publications, both on STIR pilot studies and STIR comparative studies, several experiments with the method itself, bringing it into different settings with different audiences. And one of the most impressive projects that sits at the heart of this is something that hasn't yet been published on. And so that's one of the reasons why it's very exciting for this seminar series today, to hear about the DSTIR project. I'm not going to tell you too much about it other than to say that it was really part of a very systematic program that Mickey led that brought responsible innovation, language concepts, discourses, and practices into Hungary and Eastern Europe. And so STIR was sort of the spearhead, you could say, of that effort, but it's also expanded to include work on economics and responsible innovation. And most recently, Mickey's been working with autonomous vehicles and responsible innovation. But very, very happy to welcome you guys and hear this long-awaited presentation. And I'll turn the floor over to you guys. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Eric. Nikoletta will share her screen with us, and she will be responsible for the slideshow. This will be an interactive presentation. So please, okay, thank you, Nikoletta. So please have your smartphones with you and be with us, because we would like to involve you. My name is Miklós Lukovics. I work for the University of Szeged, Faculty of Economics and Business Administration in Hungary. And my colleague Nikoletta Nádas is also working with me for many, many years, and she will finish her PhD studies and PhD thesis in the topic of responsible innovation and STIR methodological refinements. So we are really, really excited about this evening and morning for our colleagues in the USA. And it's a really great pleasure for us to represent here in the STIR family the post-socialist countries. And now we kindly invite you to a time journey with this wonderful time machine, which is well known from the movie Back to the Future. Just take your seats, fasten your seatbelts, and travel with us. Our first stop is, not surprisingly, the ASU Tempe campus in 2015 spring. Actually, this was my first meet with Eric. It was on the 2nd of February 2015. And that day I started my wonderful journey with the STIR and with the STIR studies and the STIR methodology. That time I spent some months at the ASU with investigating the history and the results of STIR. And Eric trained me with the STIR methodology, the decision protocol, and everything he mentioned in his previous slides. Then I started to set up a map. Eric also showed us a map, but in 2015, this map looked completely different. If you look at this map, you can realize, and you can also read the list of countries where STIR has been investigated before. And you can see that all of these countries are the so-called developed countries from economic point of view. And that time, we could mark a red circle in the heart of Europe, that in those group of countries, there was no STIR study. Why is it important? The answer is that something is different in these countries compared to the developed countries. And now I encourage you to have your mobile phones or type slido.com and type that number also. And let's play together. But this will be not only a game, this will be also something which helps us to understand what could be the different in these countries. I also will work with you, but a little bit I will answer a little bit later in order to give you the floor to win this quiz game. Okay, Nikoletta, I think we can start with, or maybe, okay. So maybe it could be strange for you that we start with a question about Netherlands. But Netherlands is one of the STIR countries which has been studied before our STIR study, and first we would like to know your estimation about the GDP per capita in PPS compared to the EU average in the Netherlands as a starting point. And let's see the results, Nikoletta. Yes, the right answer is that the Netherlands is 34% over the EU average. And let's, in the next question, I kindly invite you to try to estimate the same measure in our region, in the South Great Plain, in the Hungarian region, where we wanted to conduct the STIR studies. So don't forget, this is the same measure what we had in the Netherlands as 134. So what is the GDP per capita in our region, in the Hungarian region, where we conducted our STIR study? And let's see the answers. thank you for the optimistic answers with the 56, but the real answer is unfortunately that it is only 48%. So the Netherlands is approximately the same size country as Hungary, but the average GDP per capita is over the EU average with 34%, and in our region is under the EU average with 52%. Let's see the other question, which is a comparison of the monthly net salary in the Netherlands and in Hungary in euros. It is calculated in the euro. The first option is that the monthly net salary is quite high in both countries, but a little bit higher in the Netherlands. The second answer option is that it is a little bit lower, but higher in Hungary. The third option is almost the same and the medium level salary. The fourth one is low level, but a little bit higher in the Netherlands. The fifth answer option is a low income level in Hungary and the low one in the Netherlands. And the sixth one is low level in both countries, but the Netherlands is a little bit higher. What do you think? What is the right answer? I think it will be not surprising. Yes. This is the true answer. So 813 euros is the monthly net average in our country, compared to the Netherlands. The comparative study, which has been also published with Steele and Flipset. Okay, let's go further, but please don't exit your Slido, because we will come back. Here you can see the group of the so-called post-socialist countries, and you can see that our region and our University of Szeged is located in the southeastern part of the country, very close to the Romanian and the Serbian border. In the next step, we can check other economic statistical data in the table, and here you can see that the GDP per capita, the activity rates, the R&D expenditure in the percentage of GDP, the JERD and the BERD measures, the total personnel of researchers, the patent applications. So any kind of statistical data concerning R&D and I is much and significantly higher in the Netherlands. And you can see two very important parts, which is measures, which is very important from the STIR studies point of view, because it is based on the trust that people expressing high level of trust in each other in person. These are the statistical data which have been investigated by me at the ASU in 2015. So it is also significantly different. And if we go further, we can see that if we try to investigate the ranking of the European Union's 254 regions, our region where the University of Szeged is located is at the very last part of the ranking. Actually, it is in the 251st ranking from the 254 regions. Okay, so now you can see that this is the starting situation. And now let's go further and let's sit back to our time machine. Don't forget to take our statistical data back to our backpack. Have these statistical data in our mind and ask the time machine to go to Hungary. Oh my God, something happened. Is this Hungary really? Yes, unfortunately, this is Hungary. Yes. But something bad happened. Maybe the statistical data mixed up the time machine, and the time machine thought that based on the statistical data, these Hungarians are still living in tents, or they are still using horses for mobility issues. But luckily, it is not true. We have really, really beautiful buildings. We have also electricity. We have also wonderful and happy people. And this is our life. And now let's arrive to our next stop, which is 2015 autumn. So half year later when I met Eric first. And let's try how it works, how STIR works in our region. And please keep the statistical data in your mind. The wonderful painting you have seen after the time machine made this bad decision was 1,000 years ago, and it is a very, very famous building. Eric was also visiting this painting when he was here in Hungary. So on the left and on the right side of the picture, you can see the two pilots in Hungary. I will talk about it a little bit later. But now, in the next slide, I will ask you to figure out with me together the first barrier we had to face at the very, very beginning of the STIR study. As you know it very well, the STIR starts always with invitation letters. We tried to use the same invitation letters what Eric was using before to invite research group leaders to join our study. And we invited 13 principal investigators to work with us. And we were waiting the answers, and we were still waiting the answers, and still waiting the answers. And let's see, Nikoletta, what happened. Only one principal investigator answered. And what do you think, what was the answer? Unfortunately, we cannot participate in your STIR study. I would like to emphasize again, it was the same invitation letter. And some add-ons to this characteristic to the Hungarian innovation environment. So the role of informal relationships, which are direct relationships, so I would say also friendships, is much more important than the formal relationships. So if you know someone in our country and call him and say him, Zoltán, you are a very good friend of mine. I have this study. Would you like to join us? Why is it good for me? This is the next question also, always. And then I can explain it informally. Then we will have success. We have also external influence on innovation activities. I don't want to explain it much more detail, maybe during the discussion, but we have an extremely low level of trust. So if you want to conduct a STIR study, which is in connection with innovation and responsible innovation, they will think that you want to how to say, take the results with you, and they don't will believe you that you don't want to have their results. You only want to conduct a STIR study. That's why the lack of cooperation is very, very common in our country. And we also realize that the daily economic survival strategy is always at the top of the pyramid of the activity pyramid. So the long-term strategic innovation culture and its development is not in the priority pyramid of these researchers, not to mention the businesses. And let's check the two research groups where the STIR studies have been carried out. We had a research group with a very, very difficult name, but they work with brain studies, and they work with rats. Okay, and the second study was the photoelectrochemical research group. They work with carbon dioxide and carbon capture and utilization. This is the best way to summarize shortly their activity. Okay, in the next slide you can see the research participant profiles. I don't want to mention everything, but you can see that we had 2 high interaction and 2 no interaction participants in both cases. This was the 12-week interaction, weekly 2 or 3 interactions, but sometimes also 4 interactions. Actually, they were really open-minded with that, and the original STIR method has been tested and piloted with the decision protocol. Very important to emphasize that both of the 2 principal investigators of these pilot studies were my very best friends. So it was very easy to ask them to join us, but they were not among the 13 participants which have been invited before starting, because piloting. So we also wanted to pilot the unknown participants and principal investigators' attitude concerning the STIR study. Okay, on the next slide, you can see the 2 publications concerning this. This is what Eric mentioned. This is the summary of the Hungarian studies, and the next one is much more important, published in the Q1 journal Technology in Society, which is the comparative study with the results of Hungary and the Netherlands. And in the next slide, you can see what happened. So we can summarize that STIR worked in this research group, in these 2 research groups, but could work much better. These research groups was very well financed. It is also important to emphasize. So both of the 2 principal investigators are extremely talented, and also the topics are high-level research topics. So they are founded extremely highly compared to other Hungarian research groups. So STIR was able to support reflexive learning and changes in these 2 post-socialist settings, but these efforts were most likely limited due to the cultural differences. It was also extremely important to emphasize that some basic knowledge of the participants were missing. Our school system doesn't mention ethical issues, doesn't mention social issues. So these issues are completely missing from the educational background of the researchers, and we had to waste a lot of time with explaining what we mean by several definitions and several notions, which is much more clear for participants in the developed countries. In other words, the context in which the researchers were socialized continues to influence their behavior. And our conclusion after the 2 pilots was that methodological refinement is needed that creates the tailored STIR to this special economic and innovation environment. And now we start to explain what kind of modifications we started. Our first idea was to conduct research, which was called the STIR Junior, and the conclusion from the past let's go back to the time machine and arrive back to Szeged. And please look at this conclusion. So one of the general findings of the two pilots was that the context in which the researchers were socialized continues to influence their behavior. From this raised an idea for us, and with this idea and the new research question, I give the floor to Nikoletta, who was responsible for this research.
Yes, thank you very much. So based on the findings of the two pilots, the question turned out: how can we use the STIR method among those young researchers who were born after the regime change in Hungary, mainly after 1989, and what can we experience? Can we experience that this post-socialist environment attitudes can be detected among them or not? So that was the basic idea in 2016. You can read this article and the results in the Journal of Knowledge Economy if you would like. And now let me introduce the participants. We invited two groups. There was a focus group and also a control group, but of course the focus group is much more important, and I would like to talk about the results in the focus group. We involved seven participants, seven researchers who were university students, and they learned infobionics in a master program at the university. And out of the seven participants, 6% was an active participant, and only 1% was a control person. The duration of this research was only 7 weeks instead of 12 weeks, because we find that the younger generation is much more, so they learn easily, and we thought that only 7 weeks is enough for them. So the method was almost the same. So we started with a pre-questionnaire. I will talk about it later, that we use questionnaires instead of interviews. And also at the end of this whole research, we conducted a post questionnaire. And during that time, or between that time, 5 weeks long roundtable discussion was also organized. And we meet with the participants on a weekly basis, and each occasion lasted about 1 hour. As Miki mentioned, we have to make some refinements, and now I would like to introduce these refinements for you. We had to take into consideration the target group. As we involved young researchers, we had to tailor-make the method for the special characteristics of this generation. And also it was really important to take into consideration the special features of Hungary. For this reason, we tried to investigate whether the post-socialist features can be detected among the attitudes of these young researchers. And also we involved economic factors or economic aspects beside the environmental, ethical, and societal aspects. It was really important because we experienced that the economic factors can significantly influence the results of a research in a laboratory. And also we are economists, so it was obvious for us to investigate this factor. In the STIR junior research, it was a really challenging limitation that we had to cope with the problem that we couldn't go to the laboratory as a result of lack of laboratory environment. So that was the reason why we used roundtable discussions during these 5 weeks. And also, as participants were university students at a master program, they do not have their own daily research topic. However, before that they had many experience how to conduct researches in the laboratory. So we used some specific historical examples to help students to imagine how ethical, economical, societal and environmental aspects can be mentioned or can be dealt with in a research topic. And one of the main change in case of third junior was that we tried to measure the direction and also the extent of the change. First, as a first step, we changed the interview to questionnaires. So students had to fill in questionnaires, and also we scaled the answers on a Likert scale. So you can see here that we changed the we have the same questions, but we scaled it so students could choose from 1 to 6 whether they agree with the question or not. And also there were open questions, so they had to justify their answers. And that was a new element, the scaling in this third junior project. And now please try to answer the next question. What do you think? Which aspects changed during third junior significantly out of these 4 aspects? Because the results was really interesting.
You can mark also more answers, so not only one if you want.
Yes. So yeah, it's surprising. I said that the environmental and the economic aspects was that aspects that changed the most significantly, and you can see why. Sorry. So you can see here the results. Sorry, I have to go back. No, it's not okay. The environmental and the societal aspects was, sorry for this mistake. So you can see here that environmental and societal aspects in case of, So in case of environmental and societal aspects, in case of scaling, we couldn't experience changes, and we experienced that participants were really open and active. They wanted to talk about these topics, and at the end of this whole process, we could see that the level of awareness really increased in case of these aspects. However, in scaling, there were no significant changes. In case of economic and ethical aspects, we experienced a positive change in scaling and also in the level of awareness. However, at the beginning, they were so decisive. They said that they don't want to talk about these topics. They are not interested in these topics. But at the end of the study, we could achieve some change in case of their way of thinking. You can see here some graphics. You can see with blue that before the interaction, in case of open questions, students couldn't give justification for the answers. They just marked on a Likert scale their answers. But after the interaction, you can see here with green color that after the interaction, students could give justification why they believe that these aspects are really important for them. You can see here the same in case of the different aspects. The tendency was the same, that by the end of the 7th week, they could justify their answers. And to sum up what we learned from this third junior, we find that it was really surprising for us that in case of the young generation, these post-socialist attitudes are these post-socialist attitudes can influence their work and their way of thinking, but not that stronger that in case of the pilot actions. We can say also that this third junior can be a promising method for young generations, since we experience that it can have a significant change and influence on how young people is thinking about their researches and how they can build a relationship with responsible innovation. The third junior thus seems to be able to support reflexive learning, and also it can make some changes in the research practice of young researchers. During third junior, we also experienced some limitations, and these are mainly because of the fact that we had to cope with the problem of the lack of laboratory environment, and also with the fact that students do not have their own daily research topic. So it was really challenging and difficult for them to imagine how to use later the acquired knowledge in practice. So we would recommend to test this method in laboratory environment next time and compare the results maybe. We also experienced that scaling is worked really well, so maybe it can be also an effective tool to use later. And also we recommend to incorporate this STIR junior method and the STIR method itself into the education system, because it would be really, really important to help students at a very early age to get knowledge about responsible innovation and STIR, and to help them how to take into consideration the social science aspects during their natural scientists trainings. So that was STIR Junior.
Okay, when thinking back to our STIR studies, this junior project is only something like an interesting journey with young people, but after having some good ideas from the STIR Junior project, we stopped it. So we didn't continue. But very important ideas came from this one. First of all, the scaling of the questions, and which has been also used in the STIR project, but also the fact that the post-socialist cultural issues are not only detected in those people who were living in the before the regime change in 1989, but these post-socialist cultural issues can be detected also in those people who didn't live before the regime change in 1989. So it was really interesting, but we continued our thinking with the original STIR method and the methodological refinement of the original STIR method. So we have to jump back to our time machine again, and not surprisingly, we go back to the palm trees, we go back to the sunshine, to the wonderful Arizona State University, 2017, where we set up the structure of the STIR project with Eric, and we started to set up what kind of methodological refinements are needed. Once again, very important, to the original basic STIR method. On the next slide, you can see what kind of first steps did we carry out. The tailor-made STIR has been piloted in 7 post-socialist countries. It was a really interesting topic, and here you can see 4 bullet points which are the most important milestones of the D-STIR project. D in the STIR means Danube. The Danube is the main river of the post-socialist group of countries. Actually, the Danube River is coming from the south eastern part of Germany and goes through a lot of post-socialist countries. And the finish of the Danube River is in the very close in the Bulgarian and Romanian border. So the question is, how does the methodology work in the business environment? So this was the first very important question, because business environment of the post-socialist countries has never been investigated before with the STIR. And of course, taking into consideration the lack of trust, the lack of willingness of cooperation. How does scaling work in the real laboratory context? Because we had experiences with the scaling with the juniors, but we didn't have experience with the scaling of people who are working in laboratories or innovative companies. How does the STIR work with non-academic embedded humanists? So it was only an interesting question, and you will see a lot of really interesting experiences what we faced with our embedded humanists. Is there a difference between the embedded humanists considering the participants and non-participation and the 3-way long training? Because something very interesting happened that we trained, so Eric trained personally a lot of embedded humanists, but some of them left the institution where they worked right after the training. So, so it was a really challenging situation which had to be solved. The scaling again, and we were thinking on a possible step 0. Because as you could see from the pilot and also from the STIR junior, some basic knowledge of these people are missing. So we were thinking about having a step 0, which could be about raising awareness and give some basic knowledge about ethical issues, societal issues, and so on and so forth. And on the next slide, we come back to the Slido, and we ask you to try to mark the 7 post-socialist countries, the 7 post-socialist European countries we work with. I hope nobody is marking Canada or nobody is marking Ghana. But it would be really interesting to make a STIR study in Ghana. Okay, yes, Finland is not a post-socialist country, but we have Hungary, Czech Republic, Romania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Slovenia, Croatia, and Slovakia. So these are the post-socialist countries we worked with during our STIR study. And now I give back the floor to Nikoletta, and she will talk about this. Oh no, yes. I wanted to be very slow, but I became the second one. Congratulations. And yes, this is congratulations to all of you. I hope this quiz helped you to understand our situation and understand the background of these STIR studies based on these statistical data and based on these bottlenecks we had to face. Okay, and on the next picture you can see that Eric is showing the number of days of the STIR training. Yes, actually it was a 3 days long training. It started with the presentations, and on the 2 other pictures you can see that we continued with practicing with flip charts. So it was a really good and detailed training for the potential embedded humanists. And then we asked them, go back to your countries and try to practice what you learned during the STIR study. Go to the academic sector and go to the business sector. And now, Nikoletta, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So you were really great guessing the participating countries, but now let me to summarize it. So as Miki mentioned, we involved actors from the academic sector and also from the business sector. In case of the academic sector, we involved 6 embedded humanists from 3 countries, while this number was 6 persons from 6 countries in case of the business sector. We also involved 7 persons in the academic sector, 7 researchers who were involved in a STIR study, and also in the business sector, this number was 11. Altogether, we involved 12 persons as embedded humanists who were trained by Eric, and also 18 persons participated as researchers in this STIR project. As Miki mentioned, we had to tailor-make this method, and we had to change some aspects regarding to the original STIR method. The first one that we experienced, or Miki experienced during the 2 Hungarian pilot studies, that the motivation of participating in the STIR studies is really low, so we had to find some solution. And for this purpose, we created some motivational material. In case of the academic sector, participants were really open to join us. So so the name stayed STIR. But in case of the business sector, we had to find a new name to make this whole process more attractive for them. And we used the Innovation Process Management Advisory Service name, this really short name. And we found that this was more attractive for them. Then we had to take into consideration the characteristics of the innovation environment. So we encouraged embedded humanists to try to reflect the innovation environment of their countries. But the common point was in most of the countries that they belong to the post-socialist environment. So almost in each countries, the innovation environment was the same. Also, we try to involve the wider range of actors. So we involve actors from the academic and also from the business sector too. It was also really important for us to be able to compare the results, and that was the reason why training and the exam was introduced for this STIR research. And also, just like in STIR Junior, we wanted to measure the changes and the results, so we scaled the questions in the interviews. And so that was the main changes in case of this STIR compared to the original STIR method. I would like to emphasize that the exam was really important, and also the trainings. This exam wasn't used previously in any STIR studies, so we tested it, how it works or not working. This exam and the training was before the STIR interactions, where embedded humanists participated in a small group trainings, as you could see at the pictures. And this training was a 3-day-long training, but after the training, it took several weeks because Eric had online consultations for the participants. So it was a really long time to get knowledge about this STIR method. And then participants had to take an exam. The problem in this project was that some of the embedded humanists did not take the exam. The reason behind that was that some of the embedded humanists left the project, and of course new embedded humanists joined to this research, and the older embedded humanists tried to train the new embedded humanists, but we experienced that this wasn't such successful. These embedded humanists could pass the exam successfully, but we could experience that missing the training has a serious impact on the results. And I will give you some examples why. So we experienced that those who were not participating at the training, they could not apply the methodology properly and correctly. And as a result, we can say that those embedded humanists who participated at the training and also passed the exam successfully, they could use this method correctly and precisely, so there were no problems. But those who not participated at the training, but they passed the exam, they made some minor errors during this research. And there were one embedded humanist who not participated in the training and also did not take the exam. And we experienced that there were a large number of errors and mistakes in this case. And now let me show you some examples about these examples and results. The first question that I would like to talk about, we asked the researchers that how many decisions do they make at a day at work, and you can see the results. The first diagram is the academic sector, so with this red and green one. You can see here that almost everyone, so around 80% changed the grades in a positive direction at the post interview, and we could experience that the results in the academic sector correlated with the earlier studies, so there were no surprise in case of the academic sector. However, the business sector, it was much more interesting, and the results were really surprising for us, because you can see that only in 2 cases were changes in the grades, and we experienced that they give grades during the pre and post interviews. However, they couldn't justify their answers, so we can assume that maybe their answers were only intuition, and these answers were not the result of awareness behind the questions. It is also really important in case of business sector that you can see here this BP2 participants. The embedded humanist did not take part in the training and did not take exam in case of this BP2, and we could see that there were some misunderstanding. For example, the researcher could not interpret this question properly, because he or she said that he or she think that only big decisions count and not minor ones. And also in case of BP9 and BP10, it was also the same situation, that embedded humanists took the exam but do not participate at the training. So minor errors and mistakes also could be detected here. Another example is this question refers to the fact that do researchers find it important to involve social science aspects in case of natural sciences or not? In case of the first diagram, you can see the results from the academic sector, and we can say that it also not surprising, the results correlated with the earlier studies. But in case of business sector, we could also experience the same, just like in the previous questions. However, in this case, participants and researchers marked higher at the post-interview their answers, but they couldn't get justification for their answers. So it was maybe again an intuition from their side. So it was really surprising for us in case of business sector. In this DSTER project, we also asked participants and researchers to give us feedback about what did STIR provided to them during these weeks. And it was really optimistic, and academic sector participants said that they learned a lot, and STIR and this DSTER method is a really important and really useful tool for them, because they could learn a lot, and they highlighted that the awareness over their actions increased, for example, so they could learn a lot that they can use later during their work. In the business sector, it was almost the same. They also said that this method was really useful for them, but they highlighted those facts that are important for their daily working routines. So they highlighted that for example, they know now how to structure their resources, how to think about different aspects, and they also highlighted that the social, economic, and environmental aspects will be or would be important to be taken into consideration during their work. And it is important to highlight that in case of business sector, participants mainly highlighted those aspects that can be in connection with the short-term benefits of their company. So to sum up, in case of business sector, we experienced that during the 12 weeks interaction, there were no significant change in the numeric grade, and also in the justification, it was also experienced. So we can say that in case of business sector, we have to find a way how to improve the results, because in case of this DSTER, we couldn't make significant changes. However, in case of the academic sector, we experienced that the results was outstanding, and the results correlated really well with the previous studies. Also, it is really important to highlight that the 3 days training and the exam is really important part of this DSTER method, as we could experience that those embedded humanists who not participated at this training made some minor or larger errors during the studies. And also we would like to highlight some recommendations after these DSTER studies. The first one is the motivation, but in this case, it's not the motivation of the researchers, but the embedded humanists. We experienced that the embedded humanists were not so motivated, so we should emphasize more how to select the embedded humanists. For example, it would be great to introduce stricter requirements, for example, getting CVs and checking CVs from embedded humanists, or to conduct personality tests before the trainings, or maybe it would be great to give more good examples for embedded humanists and encourage them to be part of these STIR studies and to be committed in case of studies. Another recommendation is to test the durability of the results. We firmly believe that it would be great to add an extra cycle of evaluation, and after several years to test whether the results are durable or not. And also it is important that both embedded humanists and researchers highlighted, mainly in the business sector, that a more flexible method is needed, because the training, the exam, and also the 12 weeks interaction requires a lot of time for them. And they found that it was really challenging to organize meetings on a weekly basis. Another recommendation is in connection with the exam. As I mentioned, that those embedded humanists who not participated at the training and the exam, they made some mistakes. So it would be really important that the exam should be a must for each embedded humanist. And finally, the scaling of the answers, it seemed that it worked really well, but we know that scaling itself is not enough. So the justification and the evaluation of the explanations in case of open questions is also really important to get a comprehensive picture about the results. And finally, I would like to also emphasize what Miki said in case of the pilots, that we also experienced that some fundamental background informations were missing. Embedded humanists struggled to get or to give information to researchers about, for example, technical and ethical questions. And also it was challenging to give them information about economical aspects, because researchers missed these informations. Another findings that I mentioned so many times, that those embedded humanists who did not take the exam, they caused some trouble. So this can be the limitation, of course, of this method. And what is really, really important, we find at the end of the interactions that this D-STIR method could be a really, really successful method. However, we find that in the business sector, a more flexible method may be needed. And also we have to find a way how to show business sectors what the short-term benefits can be for them in case of applying this D-STIR method or participated in this method.
So all in one, we are more or less okay with this D-STIR method with the academic sector, but the business sector is still a black horse. We need everything from the original STIR method, so the decision protocol, the training, and everything is needed. But practicing and adding some add-ons to the special features of these regions is needed somehow. I think we are not ready yet, so we need still some methodological refinements based on these results. Maybe this is all what we wanted to share with you, and thank you for your kind attention. And if we already mentioned some examples from the past, this is a big question mark in this slide. Because we are really, really happy if you would say and recommend us something concerning the other steps and next steps of the STIR method applications in this group of countries. But please take into consideration the general economic and cultural and innovation background. Thank you for your